Hey everyone, and welcome to the Marvel Snap Decks of the Week, the weekly series where I showcase the top 10 best decks in Marvel Snap. If you'd like to support my content, hitting the like button is the best thing you can do. It's free, and it's all that YouTube cares about. The way that these top 10 decks are determined is utilizing the untapped statistics, infinite and above, for the latest patch. We then rank them by the win rate, and then secondary factor in the cube rate to determine the order. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Don't worry, I got you, fam. Let's slide into deck number 10, which is going to be Hela Discard. Hela has this amazing superpower of essentially tricking people into staying into games where they really shouldn't. It has a very low win rate compared to the other decks on this list, because if you don't draw Hela, you just leave, right? That's kind of the pattern there, and that's what's to be expected and why the win rate's relatively low. What you'll notice, though, it has an astonishing cube rate of 0.41. The reason for this is because Hela's superpower is allowing players to stay in games they have no right staying into. They see like nothing on the board and like, oh, I can't possibly lose to this, or they didn't draw their Hela, and sure enough, Hela just rains down monsters across the board, putting up insane points on turn 6 or 7 to steal the game. That's the name of Hela's gameplay, and of course, it's a little uninteractive, which I think causes some frustrations in the community, but it's been largely kind of forgotten, so when I see it kind of languishing in the low 50 percentile rate, but with an astonishing cube rate, but it's not that popular right now, I do think that for the most part, you can still pilot this deck to quite a bit of success. It is one of those decks that stands out in your memory as being really annoying to play against. It has come down in the meta ever so slightly, but it's still a damn competitor. So Hela at number 10. When we go to number 9 here, we're going into, it's Loki. I mean, listen, Loki continues to be one of the absolute best decks in Marvel Snap, especially at the higher echelons of MMR. It's running a 55% win rate and a good cube rate of 0.32. What you see here is a very standardized version of Loki with some of the hand generation cards like, Cable, Snowguard, and Agent Coulson. However, the splash here is going to be the Angela package that allows you to kind of generate a lot of momentum, a lot of power with Elsa, Angela, and of course Kitty Pryde. The other side to this is that Mockingbird provides you with a lot of top deck capability once you start playing things down onto the board. And then of course you have Red Guardian, which is a nice splash into this deck. Now Red Guardian is a bit of a flavor splash right now, but it is the higher win rate and the higher cube rate version of Loki currently. So if you're looking to play some Loki, this is currently the one that's going to get you to the top. We go to number 8. We actually have 2 Asgardian decks to talk about today, and one of them is going to be the Asgardian Tech deck. This one here is utilizing the recently buffed Jane Foster, now a 5/9, to basically kind of trick your opponent with a bunch of tech options. You have Shadow King, you have Quake, which continues to be an absolutely remarkable card. Once again, Red Guardian making another deck here, and then you have the Miss Marvel for the absolute straight up power. Because of the current meta revolving around junk, this particular deck really benefits from Lady Deathstrike. This is because you have like all these junk-based cards, goblins, and obviously the Widow's Bite on the other side, and it's going to be as a -4, and Lady Deathstrike just wipes it all up, just cleans it all up completely, and, there's a couple cards here susceptible to it, but ultimately, like, your Thor won't get hit, Miss Marvel won't get hit, Lizard doesn't get hit, and of course you can clear the way for Lizard so it doesn't get -4, but ultimately, it's just a really cool tech-based deck. Really good in the meta right now because of what's going on. If you're not playing against junk, you're playing against Destroy, and Shadow King destroys that. And if you can give initiative, then you can wipe out the board with something like a Killmonger if that Deadpool drops down first. Regardless, a very interesting deck and a very solid one at a 0.37 cube rate. That takes us to number 7, and it's kind of like the baseline of the meta. It's Destroy. Destroy running a 0.40 cube rate and a 55% win rate. This is kind of like the baseline. I mean, I would expect 0.30 cube rate to be approximately the baseline, but hey, Destroy is kind of like the barometer for all things meta, and it comes in at number 7 this week. The core thing about Destroy that's changed a little bit is that some decks prior weren't running Shang-Chi, and now they're almost all universally running Shang-Chi because of the prevalence of Red Hulk, despite the nerf. So now Shang-Chi's making a lot of these decks, which makes Null a little more valuable as well. So anyways, bear in mind now, when you go against Destroy players, it used to be that like, Destroy players, they're greedy, they're not playing Shang-Chi. Well, they are now. So definitely play your hand assuming that pretty much everyone in Marvel Snap's running Shang-Chi. Destroy used to be the only bastion of hope where you're like, I can drop my Devil Dinosaur and it's not going to get punched out. Well, no, Destroy's going to punch it out now. So anyways, a very strong statistical deck here, 55 and a 0.40 cube rate. That takes us to number 6, which is Asgardian Pride. This is a Kitty Pryde Asgardian mashup. You have the Kitty Pryde package. You have the Hit Monkey package as well with Beta Ray Bill, Valkyrie, and you have the Jane Foster recently buffed. Now, this is one of the few decks that actually utilizes Valkyrie, who is Asgardian, of course, right? So we often forget about, when we talk about the Asgardian package, we're almost never talking about Valkyrie, but here it is. This is a pretty damn interesting matchup. It's coming up with a 56% win rate, a cube rate of 0.34, which is pretty damn solid, but ultimately a very inventive list that is doing really well in the meta. Its play rate isn't quite as high as you'd expect, so the statistics might actually shift around as more people play it, but ultimately, it looks pretty damn promising, and I like what I see. So anyways, Asgardian Pride coming in at number 6. Number 5, we have Super Ronin, another brand new brew hitting the Marvel Snap meta this week. This one here, again, I said it before, I think that Daredevil is remarkable right now, and it's also using Supergiant. Like, this is a Supergiant Ronin deck right now. It's running a 0.43 cube rate and a 56% win rate. I think most of this is like it's just high value good cards. Like, these are just really chunky cards with a little bit of tech of the Supergiant, of course. What I really love about this deck though is the fact that you have like the Sentry and Nihilus package, and if that doesn't quite work for you, you got the Ronin kind of go. But I mean, the Ronin synergy here, there's really not that much of it, right? It's kind of cool to see that, like, Ronin, you're not running Master Mold and others. It's literally just Maximus, and you even have a Negasonic in here. When you gain the initiative, which you're likely to have with a deck like this, you gain initiative and you just blow them up, which is kind of cool, right? So anyways, Super Ronin, a very interesting brew that I'm seeing out there. I can see piling this one being a little finicky, but honestly, it looks pretty damn good, and statistically, it's performing very well. That takes us to number 4, and it's the New Groove. Number 4, this has been a very consistent deck. Now we're seeing Miles Morales being added to this move-based package. There's been some debate about cutting Silk and Kraven, which, I mean, I spoke about on the original video that I made when I was talking about this particular deck, when the initial release of Red Hulk had come. But, like, at the end of the day, like, it's just a good deck. It's just a good deck, and the 2/5 power of Silk activating the Kraven, it's just good. It's just good. And it continues to run a 57% win rate and a remarkable cube rate of 0.48. And even though there's a nerf to Red Hulk, this deck continues to put up big numbers. And hey, Angela's back, and nothing takes advantage of it like a deck like this, okay? When you get to move things out repeatedly while also getting the, Hope Summers benefit, the Elsa Bloodstone benefit on cards like Spider-Man, Vision, Jeff, and etc. Okay, this deck just puts up serious power with serious mobility. Comes in at number 4. And coming in at number 3 is Widow's Junk. This is currently the highest win rate version of White Widow decks, and which is kind of interesting. White Widow's seeing an interesting launch because the mirror matches are wild, destroys all over the place because of it, and so like it's had a bit of a rocky launch, but some decks are certainly performing better than others, and this is one of them. I really like the idea here of using Nebula and clogging the crap out of pretty much everything with cards like Debris, so that they can't actually play into the Nebula effectively, while also junking things with White Widow, Goblin, and of course locking things down with Professor X. You also have the Sentry and Nihilus play, and of course Cannonball. Now Cannonball's been a major topic of discussion over the last week or two because it's emerged in the meta in so many different high performing decks, and the card originally was reviewed as being a pretty weak card. I mean, even myself, I was kind of unimpressed with it, and now even though they're like with all this junk and all this lockdown and everything that's happening, Cannonball seems pretty damn good. It seems like a really good answer in the current meta. And so suddenly a 2-star card feels like a 4-star card because of the meta surrounding it. So Cannonball has been a source of frustration for a lot of people because it's kind of this irreplaceable piece in these decks that really junk very effectively, or even counter junk decks or punish junk decks effectively as well. So it has that double-edged sword. At a 59% win rate and a 0.32 cube rate, the deck is performing really well. It's honestly astonishing how well this deck is doing. And it comes in at number 3. At number 2 here we have New Spectrum, and you know what? I'm just so happy to see Spectrum making a bit of a comeback here. This deck just popped up on the radar. 0.50 cube rate and a 59% win rate, one of the absolute best of the week, if not one of the best we've seen in a while. And it runs like basically all ongoing cards with the exception of Nebula. If you really want to cope, you can take Nebula out and add something like a what's the duck The Howard the Duck. You can add Howard the Duck, even though you don't need him, but he's technically an ongoing, I guess, and he gets hit by Spectrum. But I digress. That's definitely coping. Yeah, if I was making a deck like this, I would lean towards getting Wong in there too, because if you're going to go full greed, you may as well Wong Spectrum, which is absolutely remarkable. But the thing I love about this deck, honestly, is that it's running US Agent, recently buffed. It's running Punisher, which got buffed not so long ago. It's running Omega Red, which got buffed a little bit ago. Cosmo, which is good in the current meta, Man-Thing, Jean Grey, which just got buffed too. It has all these buffed ongoing cards, and I actually didn't consider it at the time that we've actually had a whole number of buffs to ongoing cards, and now they all make it into this deck together, and they're slapping. They're absolutely clapping. So it's worth noting here that this deck is pretty damn remarkable, a lot of fun, and it's so new to the meta that when you're playing it, I don't think your opponent's going to know what the hell's going on. So it has that advantage as well. As we move to number one thing that's worth mentioning here is that over 50% of the people that watch my content are not subscribed. So all I ask is that you consider subscribing. It would mean a lot to me, and it would simply, help us kind of stay in touch with you as Marvel Snap gets new card releases and new decks of the week and etc. Right? The other side to that is I'm actually making my way to my lifelong goal of 100,000 subscribers. We're actually almost there. I think I might do it in 2024. Like, it's actually remarkable. So if you hit the subscribe button, you actually help me on that goal. So anyways, let's talk about Pixie Deathstrike. Pixie Deathstrike, this has been one of the absolute top performing decks in Marvel Snap for the last couple weeks. A truly remarkable deck. I love the Pixie Morbius combination here, and you're just playing Sentry and Annihilus on the same turn. It just doesn't feel fair. It just doesn't feel fair. You have super good one drops here. Polaris helps you pull inexpensive cards into the lane of the Lady Deathstrike. You can also take out Polaris if you want and add in Red Guardian. They are interchangeable to some degree, but Polaris really helps out the Lady Deathstrike combination, and Red Guardian gives you that added tech that you might be looking for. Regardless, the deck is just awesome, and it's great in the current meta. That's why the win rate's so high, because everyone's playing these junk-based decks, and you got White Widow, you got Goblins, you got all this stuff, and Lady Deathstrike just says nope and cleans it all up, right? So it's pretty interesting to see how Lady Deathstrike has kind of made a name for herself in this current meta, because it just cleans up the mess that's kind of being left around, by the Green Goblins and the White Widows. But regardless, guys, the debris, so many debris and rocks and stuff. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. YouTube's going to suggest another video right here. Click it if you're interested in watching some more content, and we'll see you on that next Marvel Snap video.